Okay.
Hello and welcome back. This is another episode of Conversations in Artificial Intelligence. And today, for the first time, we go in a very interesting and very new sectors, and that is artificial intelligence inside your home. Yes, you have heard it right, inside your home. And today, with me, we have Mike Ghodoosian, who is a veteran of the telecommunication industry and a few years ago moved into the home space. Hello, Mike. How are you today?
I am very good, Paolo. How are you?
I am very good, and thank you so much for being here. So before we go further, I'd like to thank our audience. So if you're new to the channel, it is an honor and privilege to have you here. If you're coming back, thank you for putting your trust on us. So today's episode is very important because we're gonna cover a topic that is gonna be very relevant for our lives in the next 4 to 5 years, and that is basically our homes are gonna become intelligent. And if we were giving out data from the browser, now we're gonna give out our personal data also from anything inside our home. So for that reason, it is really important that you stay tuned and you listen to this interview. So Mike, before we go into the home and artificial intelligence and what's happening there in this sector, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And usually I do this. If you go back to when you were in high school and you meet your high school friends, what would you tell them about what you've been doing? Like, how would you explain it to them?
I I thank you very much for asking that question. Um, I would say in high school, I was always interested to make a difference, and everybody has a calling in life. You got to hopefully be lucky enough to find your calling. And everybody, I would say, every 7 years in their professional career comes across different scenarios or phases. And I'm in the second half of my life, and I think that I've been fortunate enough to come across the calling that I believe we have, and would like to make a difference in everyone's life.
How did you get from wherever you were before to the home automation, home artificial intelligence? What was there in between?
My initial education was engineering. I studied mechanical engineering, and I was always interested in different processes around machines and how machines work. And my family owned a clay brick operation, and I really wanted to take that to the next level. So along those lines, I learned a lot about machine automation in the factories. From that, I went and got involved in computers some strange way, and I learned a lot about semiconductors, systems, and eventually got into the area of telecommunications. I spent over 30 years of my career in telecom, and have been involved with some of the most amazing advances in telecommunications. And through telecommunications, I started to see the evolution of what we call today the set-top box in the house. And that set-top box in the house really intrigued my interest. So as my career was starting to end, I found a new life in me, and that was that set-top box can be used around the house to do many, many things. And why not do something in the area that it will contribute to the homeowners?
Everyone, I think, has heard of Amazon Alexa or Google Home, but not everybody has a full view, I think, of what's happening in the home automation as a whole, as an industry. I'd like for you to walk us into this, trying to understand what's happening first from a consumer perspective.
I think the home automation world has been growing in the last 10 years. And what was missing was the adoption of the technology by the homeowners. There were several reasons the homeowners were not adopting that. And that was, number one was price. Number two, it was very difficult to get different softwares in the house to make it work. So what happened is the evolution of what we call smart speakers came about. Alexa or Google Home Assistant or even Apple's HomeKit, they all have now what we call smart speakers. And you're starting to see an evolution of smart speakers. These smart speakers allow people in the house to give verbal commands to the platforms that are in the house and make the house work in the way they want. So the smart speakers are really, really accelerating the adoption of smart homes around us.
Why do you think is that? Is it because they make the user experience simpler? Is it because of the price point or a combination? Why do you think the smart speakers have become the catalyst of this movement?
I think there are two reasons for that. One is that when you take a look at the past 10 years, consumers that adopted smart homes were typically the techies. What the smart speaker has done for this market is it's provided a user-friendly environment for the homeowner to be able to find an easy and comfortable way to talk. And even though it's at its primitive stages, it will change a lot. Just think about today, you're controlling 4 or 5 devices today in your house. In the future, you'll be able to control over 100 devices in your house. This is maybe unbelievable as we talk about it today, but in 5 years from now, you'll be so surprised about the number of different devices that you can control in your house. So in order to do that, you can't be a techie if this is going to take off. It's got to be user-friendly. It's got to have a feel for the common denominator, and not just in the US, but all over the world.
I think Hubs.AI, which is the company you started, that comes into play. I'll be curious to understand in the ecosystem of home devices where Hubs.AI is playing a role. What problem is solving right now?
Right. Hubsai is a company. We're based out of San Ramon, California. We started this company with the idea of bringing artificial intelligence to the house. Now, this is not something that's very sexy or really impressive, because what's going on is when you bring AI to the home, it's really on its primitive levels, meaning that there's other AI out there. AI is improving exponentially today. And if you take a look at what you can do with AI, the bottom line is you're able to take the homeowner from having to be a technically competent person about how they put these devices together and make the house work, to the common man, common person in the house, to be able to use it just by talking to it, just by looking at it, by just through machine learning, the platform to learn about your habits. So I think what we are doing as Hubsai is we are bringing artificial intelligence at a very cost-effective point to the homeowner. So it's not that the AI, the artificial intelligence, hasn't been out there, but it has never been economically suited and user-friendly for the homeowner. And that is what I would like to believe what our company is doing, and we're hopefully a pioneer in this field.
I think to the broader public, it is clear the use of AI when it comes to understanding human speech and natural language. So you basically say, Alexa, do this, do that. But it's not the only place where AI can play a role. Maybe you can give some additional examples that are not in this main direction of the smart speakers.
Sure. There are several areas in terms of artificial intelligence in the house that play a good role in terms of getting started. One place I would say is to learn your habits as a homeowner of when do you come home, what kind of temperature do you want your house to be in, but most importantly, energy management. I would like to focus on this topic to say energy management is the #1 driving force for the homeowner to adopt AI. And to that point, AI can learn about your habits, how you do it, in terms of temperature around the house, about your fridge, how you use your fridge, about your washer dryer, about many other things that are related to energy management. Your television, your entertainment system. So these are the initial areas that AI is starting to penetrate in your home. But it has much further sexy applications, such as being able to save a life, being able to save you from having damage around your home. We can save lives in the case of fire, in case of water, flooding, drowning, many areas to come. And I think to be able to save a human life is valuable. So I think those are the motives and fundamentals that are happening around AI in the home.
When you talk about energy management, I assume you might be alluding at reducing the cost of spend for energy in a house. How does artificial intelligence impact that?
Well, I mean, there are different areas. So let's just talk about the fridge, for example. If you use the fridge and you know that it will create, so every fridge has a maintenance level, your usage of the fridge, how often you open it, what kind of temperatures are in it, and when does failure happen. So I think that's one area that through analytics and machine learning, you can learn a lot about the appliances around the house. With regards to lighting, lighting is a very important matter. If you take a look at your utility bill, your electric bill is pretty important. Solar is coming to the home. Solar will play a very key role again. And with the cars that are going to use solar, we will see how that will really impact everything. But you're starting to see that your water bill, for example, you can have leaks. That is a very important matter. If you take a look at your water bill, a lot of large homes, they spend $200 to $400 a month in California for the water bill. This is crazy. And sometimes there are leaks associated with the piping in the house, or there are other matters. So, from the standpoint of thermostats, they control the heating around the house. Getting that heater on is very expensive. Getting your air conditioning on is very expensive. So being able to know your habits and only use it when you need it will become important, especially for the new generation.
What I'm inferring here is that there are two types of applications. One in which the AI can optimize the energy consumption. That could be the heating, for example. And another one where the AI could give an alert instead to the consumer. Like, for example, the issue of water leaking, or the issue of you using the fridge in a way that, so if you open it 3 times in a row, it's worse than opening it one time. So it seems a combination of something that can be done automatically and something that instead the AI is just giving advice or trying to change the consumer behavior. What is your take on that?
Well, I think that there are several things at play here. One is when we're trying to learn about people's habits and incorporate that using machine learning in AI, I think that's relatively a simple matter. What becomes a challenge is being able to understand your overall habits in the house and your overall members of the household, of how the house is being used. And to that point, there are a lot of so energy. We started on energy management, but if you kind of take that to the next level of lifestyle, people are busy. Like you were mentioning, that when you come home, you want the house not to be so frigid and cold. You want it to be warm, or your food to be ready. But there are other areas that are really starting to make all of this happen. The home is the most common level that this stuff is starting to happen. And right now, to bring AI into the house is extremely expensive. So I think when I analyze the the market, what Hubsai is doing is we are bringing AI at very simple applications in the house. I'll give you one vivid example, which is we are about to uh, launch our product at IoT World this year, and we will show what's called the maid application. So the maid comes into your house, it recognizes the maid, opens the door, the maid comes in, you have security all over the place, you have energy management all over the place, you have what I would call, uh, from the standpoint of being able to monitor what's happening. So we're bringing a lot of different things to the plate. But when we go back to energy management, I think on the fridge side, yeah, it's, you open and close the door so often. But think about if you have a $10,000 fridge, and we're able to uh, give you a heads up or let the homeowner know that there's a failure coming, or if you have certain problems with the garage door in terms of number of times opening and closing, um, you're able to do preventive maintenance. You'll be able to save your house from catching fire, for example, in a solar case. If your solar panels are not cleaned often, they pose a danger of fire in the house. So using AI and machine learning, if you may, you can find out a lot of these things, what's going on. But again, we're at very primitive levels.
We have, touched the several sectors here. One is energy management. The other one is, if you like, preventive maintenance. Another one is personal security. Like if there is a camera in the home and you see that maybe a senior has fell down, you can give the alarm right away. And so
maybe I didn't mention it enough, but safety around the house is extremely important. You can call it security, but safety for the people who live in the house. And we bring that in.
So we're seeing that there are a number of use cases that are potential. So energy management, preventive maintenance, safety, and technologies in this space, they're meant to help facilitate those use cases. Where do you think right now the biggest adoption is?
I think we got to look at the evolution. I think right now the evolution of the home is starting with security. I take a look at several leaders in the market. I look at a company called Vivint. I look at another company called Alarm.com. I take a look at what Nest is doing. I think when I look at these areas, you're starting to see some advancements that are happening. But this is, again, this is just the beginning. And I think where this is taking us will be in places that you've never even thought of. Like I said today, maybe you have a smart lock, maybe you have maybe you have a camera that does video streaming. You can have a garage door opener. All of these are starting to equally get adopted. But what we don't know yet is what's going to be the lead factor right now. And I would say right now, as we see it with the current data, it has to be around the thermostat and the HVAC, where I see the major growth happening. And the security has always been steady. Remember, before all this new smart home automation and security, you've always had the companies like ADT and Honeywell being leaders in this field. But that's evolving. So I would not say we're bringing anything new. It's just an evolution. But what is really changing is the way the homeowner is using their home.
It's very interesting to look into how this change in consumer behavior is actually happening. So the security element is probably the most linear, because it's something that was already there, as you were saying. So avoiding that some thief comes into my house, as there is a market for that. I like to stay a little bit more on how consumers are adopting these new technologies.
Let me just clarify a couple of things. One is, we're talking all about the good things. We should talk a little bit about the risks. Right now, if you take a look at the home security, So home security is changing and it's becoming part of the home automation package. But there are a lot of problems with it. One problem is privacy. The second problem is malfunctioning. You have a lot of people, or maybe abuse. What do I mean by abuse? I have people who have used these new security systems. They get so many false alarms. They get so many alerts. They're sick and tired of it. So if you're going to upset the customer, the consumer, the adoption is going to have a backlash. If you're going to violate the privacy of the homeowner, it's going to have a backlash. And if that happens, especially in the United States, this will make China become the leader because they don't have to worry about a lot of privacy matters in China. But in the United States, you have to respect the consumer. You cannot get into the homeowner, into the household of the United States homeowner without respecting their privacy. And that is really something special about Hubsai, because we provide local intelligence. We provide the protection of the privacy of the homeowner and learning the habits. That cloud that everybody said was so safe and secure, we've had malfunctions. We've had bad events happen. So you have to do a risk assessment. And if you do a risk assessment, you can see that home automation in the house is treading water.
I'd like to move now a little bit towards technology. For those parts of the audience that is more, like techie, more tech savvy, and wants to kind of understand really what's happening here. Can we give at a very high level, like an idea of how artificial intelligence is going to be used here? So first of all, we're going to have all these devices connected to where? To an hub? Is this hub in the cloud? Is it at home? And where is the intelligence going to operate? Is the intelligence going to operate from our homes, or is it going to be like Google again, that is going to be in some kind of data center and collecting all the data? So what's emerging right now in this space?
I think it's a really fair question, but it's got a bigger, it's got a higher level view of a couple of things happening. One of them is the advancement in technology. I'll give you an example. If you store a video clip, you cannot put a video clip into a little box in your house if it's more than 30 seconds. In order to store that, you're going to have to store it on the cloud. So the more you bring automation to the house with improved technology, what's going to happen is it depends on the acceleration of the software advancement, on the acceleration of advancement in semiconductor technology. You're going to start to see a lot of companies putting AI on the chip. So it's a moving matter right now, and I don't know how to be able to give a definitive answer. But at this point, AI in the house is cost prohibitive, and that's what Hubsai is trying to change.
Why is cost prohibitive? It's because the amount of data generated is too large. It's because of the amount of processing necessary is too large. What are the drivers of the cost right now?
Right now, it's the data. It's the data and in the way that this information is stored and used. So we're reaching the level of real big data. Just think about today, you have 5 devices in the home. In the future, you'll have 100 devices in the home. These 100 devices are going to learn about your habits. This information has to be stored somewhere. And then there are companies that are going to be supporting millions and millions of consumers. This stuff is going to have to go to the cloud for them to do analytics. Well, in order to get that data into the cloud, you're going to have to get the blessing of the homeowner. And I think that's going to be a real big challenge in the US. Not as much in the third world countries or China, where you don't have to be so concerned with privacy. But in the US, the big data is going to drive it. And because it's big data, you're going to need a lot of storage. And the cost of storage has to keep coming down. and also AI software. AI software is really improving a lot. I think I have to really recognize Google and recently Facebook's commitment to two new AI platforms. I mean, Google Brain really got everything started, and you know, there are different AI platforms, but these platforms are getting better and better and better. The acceleration in AI improvement, I would say in 2 years from now, what you see in AI will be unbelievable in comparison to where we are today.
Basically, if I understood it correctly, as of today, the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, the intelligence work on an amount of data that can only be stored on the cloud, and two, most of the machine learning platform today, they operate at the best, especially if it is deep learning and so on, they operate at the best when they run from the cloud themselves. And the transition into the peripheral, it's in the process of happening, but it's not yet fully there.
Well, let me answer this question by proposing a third option, which is a hybrid, which is part local, part cloud. If you take a look at the autonomous car today, when your car is driving at 60 miles an hour, your car has to make decisions very quickly. Sometimes the time response from the cloud is not sufficient enough. In the home, you don't have that problem. That's the best part of the home. That's why we can do a lot more local intelligence around the house than we could on the car. But where the home falls short of going to the cloud is the video. If you're going to store video, if video cannot be stored sufficiently locally, it has to go to the cloud. And that's why you start to see on all the cameras, the Nest cameras, the Arlo cameras, the cameras from Logitech, they all have to go to the cloud because they can't store it on that device locally. So I think today I propose that we look at the combination, the hybrid, where it's part local, part cloud. But I think in the future, if a company like Hubsai can deliver all local, that would be amazing because we're going to respect the privacy of the homeowner.
I think that local processing and therefore privacy, it's particularly important because today, you know, there is an emergence of kind of animosity on the part of the consumer towards all this data that they get taken on the internet from these companies and then they monetize it. I think consumers over time will become more privacy sensitive, even just for a issue of first of all, the house is the place where you're living, so you don't want a camera to watch it you 24 hours unless you know that 24-hour stuff stays there and it's just used for yourself. It's not used to go somewhere else. It's kind of intriguing to see what's going to happen in the future and how much consumers will be willing to, let other third parties analyze all these data and so on. I'd like to address two other aspects of this. One is, today in artificial intelligence is basically an emerging industry sector. Tomorrow will probably be an established industry sector. But as such, there are lots of people that are looking for jobs and are looking for moving in these sectors. It's very appealing, very sexy, and so on. So what are the criteria with which you make hires today? What, you would recommend people that want to get into the field? But first, let's start with how you make hires today.
Well, I think one recommendation I have for the ones who are starting to look for jobs in AI is there are plenty of tutorials available on YouTube, and people can get acquainted with what AI is. Unfortunately, most people do not understand AI. What they think of AI is maybe a computer program being able to predict a chess move and or be able to do other things, where AI is probably the hardest thing there is right now. It's harder than rocket science. The number of data points that you need in order to understand AI is super complex. So for people who are looking for jobs in AI, they need to get a tutorial on what AI is. And AI has many, many different branches. What you mentioned a couple of them: natural language processing, machine learning, deep learning, intelligent agents. You're going to learn a lot about how AI is going to be able to think like the human brain. We're starting to see some very good movement in robotics with regards to AI, being able to have vision, being able to have pattern recognition. You're starting to see it a lot in the financial sector, but I think as we move forward, for people to be able to find jobs in AI, they need a very strong understanding of what AI is, a strong understanding of software. So when we look at somebody who we're going to bring on board, we look at if they have any practical applications in college, meaning that have they done anything in robotics? How have they used AI? If they've just taken courses, that's a good start, but it's not a way to get a job, because the way you want to get a job and get the experiences, the employers really want to know that you're coming out of college knowing or having done a couple of applications where you can do object detection, where you can do some simple things to show your understanding of AI and being able to apply it. Now, when you get the job, it's very important to understand the mission and the vision of the company that you go to work for. So there will be plenty of jobs. There will be plenty of jobs in the next decade or two in AI, and it will definitely transform our life.
In summary, in your opinion, even for business position and so on, the knowledge in the sector is very important. So if we could summarize it, it's like somebody is trying to jump from a different industry, should educate himself, should know what the industry is about, and if he or she could top up the education with a couple of real life experiences, that would be optimal, because it gives the sense of that experience that is necessary to start fast, basically.
Yes, I think if they have at least one practical application that they've done AI on in one of the courses or through a team, it will make a significant difference in being able to find a good job.
We have asked this question to several CEOs, CTOs, and so on, and it's interesting to see how different people have a different perspective on that. And generally speaking, there are, the ones that says you have to be passionate, there are the ones that says if you're smart, I'll let you come in. And then there is a consistent number of people who say you have to know what we are doing and you belong to that area. So I hope this serves our audience, and you can probably see, I'm saying this for the audience, you can see that different people have a different viewpoints, but there are things that certainly are not bad, because for example, if you have passion and knowledge together, it's much better than having none of the two. So you cover more people if you have those things. So that's very interesting. Mike, as we go to the end, I would like to ask you one final question. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what is the world that you see in the home space? What will we be doing? What is our life 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now?
I think in 5 years from now, you're going to see an amazing, super intelligent workforce and homeowners, especially in the United States, where people can work efficiently, be able to use their home efficiently, be able to manage their lives well. And I think you're going to see improvement in the quality of life. Even in healthcare, you'd be able to use home automation for healthcare, for the elderly. There are going to be more older people that are going to live in the house from the baby boomer generation, and be able to handle that is very important. The young generation will have grandmas, mothers and fathers that are staying in their own place. They want to be able to talk to them, manage their health care. Healthcare will become very, very important to home. But definitely, I see the new generation being able to take everything to the next level. We'll be so proud of the next generation 5 years to come.
And with that said, Mike, I want to thank you for taking your time. And for our audience, if you want to ask questions about this particular video, just comment down if you watch this on YouTube. And if there are other suggestions that you have about content that you like us to bring, just comment on the YouTube channel. If you watch this on other venues like Medium or Facebook, you can comment there as well. And for the time being, Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thank you.